Okay, so here's the deal. I have been talking about real politics online too much. And as a result of this, people keep on being like, oh, Quibbles, you should like argue with me about X, Y, and Z. And we should do this very serious, blah, 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 blah. And the truth is, okay, that it's making my experience of the internet deeply unpleasant, okay? The goal of the internet, this is very important, the goal of the internet should be a time-sucking vacuum of space wherein you just waste away your life, wherein like nothing of importance is accomplished, right? And so I ended up having these like conversations about Israel-Palestine. I ended up having this conversation about like polyamory and stuff. And these were conversations that were like somewhat in depth, okay? And it's a problem. It's a problem. That's not the kind of content that I want to be able to produce. I want to be producing nonsense. So the question is this: Quibbles, what is it that you do in your free time when you're not thinking about politics? Well, the answer, okay, is that I think about politics. In my free time when I'm not thinking about politics, I start thinking about politics. So here's the specific type of politics that I start thinking about when I'm not doing anything that's important, okay? I start making up new politics, okay? I start making up these worlds, okay, these fantasy worlds in which there are hypothetical questions, okay, very specific hypothetical questions that I will now pose to myself, okay? So to be clear, I've been doing this for a long time. I haven't made them into videos or anything, but I've been doing this for a long time. I have upwards of 100 hypothetical questions that I have posed to myself. Many of them are somewhat akin to this. Others are just literal hypothetical questions of like, what would you do in certain circumstances? And so my goal here, the basic premise of this video, and I'm not sure if I'll end up uploading this. I'm not sure if it'll end up being good. We'll see. But the premise is I'm going to try to answer this hypothetical question to the best of my ability. And I don't know how long it's going to take me to do that. And I don't know how in depth we're going to end up going. But you can see at the bottom of the video how long this is. So you have a better answer than I do at the time that I'm recording this. So let's start. Okay. Wandering through the woods of an enchanted forest, you follow a line of ants back to their colony. They swarm together as you do so, and suddenly, the ground beneath you collapses. You are inside of their dark world beneath the surface. With their bodies, they begin to write out words to you, stating that the Great War is only just beginning between land mammal and sea mammal. You realize instantly that they speak, of course, of the ongoing struggle between humanity on the one side and mermen on the other. You, they say, have been chosen as their ambassador to the land mammals, to the humans. To prove this, you must bring their offering, a great vat of aphid honeydew, their delicacy, back to your king, and in return, they hope trade relations shall grow. Your concern, of course, is, beyond just your safety, that the king is old and weak. He will soon be replaced by one of his 7 sons, and you, until now just a lowly serf, have a long career ahead of you. How will you grow your power? Okay, so let's break this down, right? Okay, so the first question is, how do you stop yourself from being seen as a threat by the various power factions, parentheses, the 7 sons, who may take control over the kingdom of humans? Okay, that's the first question. End parentheses, question mark. The second question is, how do you figure out a type of trade balance between the ant colony and the humans, such that you yourself are able to maintain your position as the go-between, while also increasing the scale of trade, right? This is important, right? The way that ants understand humanity in a way that's probably wrong, right? they probably think of us as being a colony, right? They probably think of us as being one single hive and therefore having a hive mind, right? So their idea, they don't have this concept necessarily of the idea of like, you are a serf, and these other people out here in the ether are like on the trajectory towards being the king, right? They're part of the royal family, right? So like, they don't understand that shit, right? Whereas you certainly do, and the humans certainly do. But on the other hand, currently, this is the first time, we should put this down as well. This is the first time that anyone of the humans, parentheses, perhaps mermen have interacted with the ants prior to this, have spoken directly to the ants. So presumably other people know that the ants exist, right? But you're the only one who's actually spoken to them, right? So there's this question of like, okay, so how, given that fact, are you going to take advantage of this and maintain this comparative advantage? The first thing that comes to my mind, right, in terms of this taking advantage component, is that you want to make sure that no one else goes down there other than you, right? If anyone else goes down into their actual hive, it'll quickly become possible for the ants to recognize that humans are not a single monolith. That would be very bad. Be very bad for you. Okay. Then there's this other question. How do you stop the mermen from becoming the larger and more important trade partner to the ant colony? There's a fourth. Are there other ant colonies? Right. Obviously, there's multiple. Human and mermen. Mermen? I think you spell it like that. I feel like you spell it like that. And mermen kingdoms. But are there multiple of the semi-sentient, we'll call them, colonies? Okay, so that's a question. There's this other question, which is, do you have a political agenda, right? You're a serf, right? Your whole family is serfs. Your whole family are serfs. Are you chill with the idea of feudalism? Okay, so my answer to this one's going to be yes. I think that you are. And the reason for that is because you're going to end up being in charge, right? So long as you're in charge, right? Now, the reason for this is sort of twofold. Okay, one of the reasons for this is because, like, realistically, it's gonna be very difficult for you to like end feudalism. Okay, it's gonna be a lot easier for you to just like figure this shit out and figure out how you can manage to do this whole trade thing. You're already engaging in mercantilism. You have to remember this whole system, right? The kingdom that you're coming from is a sort of feudal system, which is going to be overwhelmingly like, yeah, okay, you're gonna have some blacksmiths and shit, but like overwhelmingly the vast majority of people are gonna be farmers, right? And you are the first person who is a merchant, right? And so if you're gonna be a merchant, that's enough of a thing, okay? You're already, in terms of this, how do you stop yourself from being seen as a threat by the various power factions, specifically the Seven Sons who may take control of the kingdom of humans, okay? It's a real big problem if you start fucking with a feudalism. So don't fuck, we should do don't period, fuck period, with period, the period, feudalism, period. Okay, cool. Okay, but you still want your specific family to become royalty of some kind, or at the very least, to have a form of title such that you are to become of meritable. That feels right. Like, I don't know. I know they don't think that's a word, but meritable, like you are of good breeding. I don't know, of good breeding for purposes of future heirs and family success, etc. Okay, so that's one of your goals. What other political agendas do you have? You need there not to be war between the mermen and the humans. I think, right? That feels right. Do you care? This is interesting. So, okay, the question is this, right? So obviously there's all of these currently, there's all of these like issues between the mermen and the humans, right? Specifically, you can imagine the port cities. We should just drop this out. What are the current problems between the mermen and the humans? Okay, so one, port cities, the basis of trade. So presumably theft, right, is going to be a big one. It's really easy for humans to steal fish, and really easy for mermen to sink boats. Yeah. Sink boats. That's interesting. What else can you do as a merman that fucks with the humans? And what can you do as a human that fucks with the mermaids? How do rivers work? Rivers. So mermen need salt water, presumably. Right? Whereas humans need to drink fresh water. If a merman wants to increase territory around port cities, they can salt the rivers, dam them up, and build out territory. New territories that are very well protected against other mermen, albeit not well protected against a land foe. So therefore, tactically speaking, there's an incentive for mermish kingdoms and human kingdoms to build up tacit alliances, territorial disputes outside of river. What are they called? Like the part at the bottom of the river. I'm totally blanking on the word. I'm just gonna write bottom of the river. But like the part, there's a specific word for the term of like the bottom of the river, river mouth. That's what I'm looking for. Outside of the river mouth, territorial disputes outside of the river mouth are going to be relatively small. There's a good ability to share farming crops, right? So like, because you definitely farm fish as a mermish kingdom. You'd probably have dolphins as equivalent, or actually dolphins / killer whales maybe, as equivalent to horses / elephants in war, but also for use, particularly dolphins, uh, in farming. Okay. So yeah, there's definitely going to be an incentive for mermish kingdoms and human kingdoms to build up a tacit alliance. So why is this new? Why haven't the ants been trying to interact with the humans and mermens in the past? This is an interesting question. So one, they're going to be they're to the north. They probably do. No, actually, I don't want them to interact with any humans or mermaids. I want them to be, because then otherwise people would know. Like if they'd interacted with humans before to any degree, they would understand that you're not a colony. And if they understood that you're not a colony, then they wouldn't be treating you as if you're royalty, as a random peasant who they just captured in the woods. So they're to the north and deep inside the woods. Therefore, they're kind of a hermit kingdom. Also, yeah, so they're in the woods. So they're deep inland. No, they can't be deep inland. They have to be in the woods, but close-ish to. Oh, no. Okay, so they're close. Yeah, they're on a river, or rather, they surround it. They surround the river on either bed, and beneath the river. The river is fresh water, but the Great Lake that it's coming from has been getting saltier and saltier over the last few generations, because of a tectonic shift. Yeah, because of a tectonic shift underneath, which opened up an ancient salt flat. As a result of this, you know and they know a couple of things. Okay, so one, the river that they rely on is about to get hella salty. That impacts their food chain, their food supply. Why can't I type right now? That impacts their food supply. That means that the mermen are about to have a massive war over the Great Lake as they start to move in. It also means that those reliant on the Great Lake currently, parentheses, humans, your humans, yeah, you're up there. Ooh, I like that a lot, actually, because that means that even though other human kingdoms have long interacted with a merman, your human kingdom is very new to the idea beyond the abstract and a few pets / slaves / zoo exhibits. Yeah, I like that a lot, actually. Okay, so you're new. Your whole colony is new to having mermaids as well, because of this river and because of the salt happening to your Great Lake. Okay, So the river that they rely on is getting hella salty. Okay, so they know that. And so from the ant perspective on the salty river. Okay, so so there's the food problem. There's the trade increase. There's the they're about to become the possible choke point of a war. They're about to become so the mermaids are super incentivized to deepen the river / dig up a bunch of colony resources that are stored beneath it. Because if the river is deeper, it's harder for human soldiers to attack them as they go up it. By contrast, the humans are super incentivized to keep it shallow by dumping whatever crap they need to, parentheses, they're upriver. They don't give a shit. Into the riverbed to stop the mermaids from building a trench. Am I going to call them mermaids or mermen? I don't know. Mermaid. Okay, we have to take a talk. We have to just a direct to camera message. Here's the issue. Mermaid, okay, as a concept is a really frustrating concept because it implies that they only have females, right? But like, why do they only have females? There's no reason for that. They would have males, right? Obviously they would have males, but like we have this like, whatever it is, Ariel, that's the one. I have a friend named Ariel, so whatever, Ariel. We have this Ariel stuff, and like therefore we think that they're all females. They're not all females. There are male mermaids, mermen. And so I feel like if we're gonna have, like, we have to have misogyny in this, right? Surely there's misogyny, right? There's misogyny. There must be. There must be. It's the Middle Ages. Social differences between humans and mermens, yeah. Mermens are okay. Let me think. How do you protect a merman castle? What does a merman castle look like? Because like, okay, we'll come back to the misogyny. What does a secure city in wartime for mermens look like? Okay, so let's talk about beavers for a second. So beavers have a dam and also an actual, I don't know what it's called, but like an actual hideout in the middle. So they ensure deep waters, and then they have very few, very deep entries into their domain in the middle of the pond/lake that can be accessible, that are accessible, but only for very strong swimmers. So that makes sense. What are some other animals? Here's the issue. If I'm a merman, I still like having a view and probably like to have light, right? Being deep in the water, even if you can do it, is probably not that pleasant. So like, that's where the true military spaces might be. But it's not where my cities are going to be. My cities are going to be in ports, but they're going to have to, but then I'm forced, because I want to be landlocked on like 3 sides, right? I don't want to have a bunch of mermaids able to come at me, mermen, soldiers come at me from any direction. I want them to only be able to attack me from one direction. But then I'm forced to think about security from the land. Security from the land. Okay, so looks like, okay, 1. I probably have, let me think. Do I have water cannons? I feel like I do, right? I probably have water cannons. I don't know. Cannons is spelled like that, right? I probably have water cannons. No, it's not. I probably have water cannons. I probably have, it's hard. Yo, being a mermaid is hard. If you're trying to defend against a land creature, because the land creature by definition is from above. In most war situations, you want to have the high ground. So maybe I don't want to be on a port. Maybe I want to be on the top of an underwater mountain, built into the mountain. Oh no, that's not what I want. What I want, no, I figured it out what I want. What I want, this is what I want. I want I want an island. What I want as a merman kingdom is a small island with a lot of shallow water around it, because then I'm able to fully block off certain attack trajectories from underwater attacks by simply pulling up a drawbridge such that no one, or building out more land, slash the equivalent of a moat. I'm able to easily take out any human invaders because they're not going to be able to get to me except via boat, which I can probably take out before they arrive at the city proper. I'm able to have sunlight and to chill on rocks and such, and have my Ariel dream sequence every twilight, which is parentheses, which is crucial. So I can do that. What I want as a mermaid kingdom is a small island. Okay. So that's where, okay. So therefore, the major kingdom that we're about to come into contact with is in control primarily over a series of islands outside of islands in the ocean, protected within a bay. Okay, so let's draw this. I have a Sharpie and I have paper towels. Okay, so that's all you need in life. Okay, you just need paper towels and you need a Sharpie. Give me a second. Okay, so what we have to draw is we've got our Great Lake. Okay, this is going to be our Great Lake. Okay, I know you can't see this yet. I'm going to show it to you. There's going to be a Great Lake. Okay, then there's going to be the little river. That's the ant colony area. Okay, we are going to have our kingdom over that says human, but it says it really poorly. This is what we have so far. Give me a second. It says human there, I promise. That does say human, okay? I know it looks like an esophagus, but just ignore that it looks like an esophagus. So you got your humans, you've got our Great Lake. Then this is where the ants are. And then over here is the ocean, okay? Ocean. And then there's just going to be like a series of islands that are represented by these dots. And then there's going to be a major kingdom on the other side. Okay, so this is our map. Okay, so you've got this over here is where you're from. You're from there. Okay, you traveled boopity boopity over to here. This is where the ants are. I should just write ants. Ants. And remember, it's like a thicket of forest. Okay, there's just a crazy amount of forest there. You people don't go there. You're only there because you're insane. Ooh, why are you there? That's a really good question. Why are you there? Why? Like, because you're a feudal like serf, so you definitely got in trouble, right? That's the only explanation of why you were there. Okay, why are you there? In what did we call it? We called it the enchanted forest. Why are you in the enchanted forest? Enchanted forest. Okay. You're definitely in trouble, right? You have to be in trouble. You're definitely in trouble of some sort. So you probably broke a law, and pissed off the king / was banished. But his kids don't necessarily mind. If I were to make this into a perfect draft, it would definitely like have this part be in the same part that we're doing it here, but we're just going to keep going. Okay. It's a rough outline, okay? Ladies and gentlemen, it is a rough outline. Okay, what are you doing there in the enchanted forest? His kids don't necessarily mind. So what did you do? You might have stolen something. You might have learned something. You might have said or attempted something, parentheses, coup. You might have, what else could you have done as a feudal nothing? You might have insulted someone. That would be fun. Yeah, I like that one actually. Okay, so you insulted one of the king's sons, parentheses, princes, by what if you're good at archery? We could do that. By being in an archery competition and beating him. So that means that you're very proud. This means that you're very proud. It means that for that specific prince to come to power, you have to die. Right? Your existence is an insult to his power. Right? That feels correct, particularly given that this was a public jousting competition type deal, and you out-archeried him. Obviously, you don't have a horse. Don't have a horse or anything. You weren't even a squire. A squire, you were just a local dude who went hunting a lot. You beat the crap out of him in this competition. He got pissed. He challenged you to a duel. You straight up ran away. Okay? So you don't have that much honor, right? But you just straight up ran away. Because in your defense, if you had stayed, he would have killed you, right? And even if he didn't kill you, you would have been tracked down and murdered eventually. So your only option was to go where no one else was willing to go. Parentheses, enchanted forest. Okay. So then that begs the question, why is no one willing to go to the enchanted forest, right? This is the obvious resultant question. Resultant? That seems a little bit full of myself, but I'm gonna stick with the resultant. Okay, but his kids don't necessarily mind. The rest of the brothers need to beat this specific brother, parentheses, the oldest one, if any of them are to ascend to the throne. You're a good support to their claims because your existence, again, is an embarrassment to their enemy brother. Beautiful. Okay. This is good. Okay, cool. Okay. Now, why is everyone scared? Is everyone scared of the enchanted forest? Other than ants, what's supposed to be there? Okay. Obviously, there's going to be lions, tigers, bears. We're also going to have giants, I think. Yeah. So actually, we don't need lions and tigers. That's stupid. There aren't lions and tigers. That's dumb. I was just saying lions and tigers and bears. Oh my! But that's actually stupid. There shouldn't be lions and tigers. There should just be bears. Specifically, very large bears that have interbred with the giants. They're like 30 feet tall, and they're crazy. And they can smell blood from like 3 miles away. Okay, so the giants, this is interesting. Should the giants be smart or no? Should the giants be smart? The beauty of having paper towels with you is that they're dual purpose. They're both pieces of paper, but they're also tissues. So when you need a tissue, you can have a tissue. And when you need a piece of paper, it's also a piece of paper. This is why everyone should always have paper towels with them at all times. Okay, giants. Okay. So are they smart? I don't think so. I think it's better. I don't want there to be, the issue is, I'm looking at my map again, right? And the issue is I don't want there to be too many complicated. We want to keep this a pretty simplistic story, right? We want this to be a matter of trade between the mermaids over here and the humans over here and the ants in the middle, right? As this becomes salty. And so, given that, I don't want there to be too much beyond the ants themselves in terms of major trade partners. So maybe we don't even want to have giants. I think we might just want to have these interbred half bear, half giants. Half bear, half giants. So that's one group. We're going to have nymphs, obviously. Ooh, yes, we want nymphs. Because these are explicitly pro-freshwater eco-terrorists. We love the nymphs. Yes. Yeah. They fucking hate the mermen. Right? Because obviously they're going to hate the mermen because their whole thing is that they want to have freshwater rivers. They like rivers, swamps, ponds, lakes, all of the stuff that the mermen are interested in draining and making salty for their own purposes. This is good. And then in parentheses, porpoises. Porpoises? I think that's how you spell porpoises. Synonyms for porpoise. Is this correct? Synonyms. Thesaurus. Porpoises. No results were found. I'm pretty sure that's how you spell porpoises. Regardless. Okay. That was a very funny joke, and I'm grateful for my joke. Okay. They fucking hate the mermen. They like rivers, swamps. Okay. They're not a complicated group, and they have small numbers, but they're capable of certain low-level magic and mysticism. They're very difficult to kill unless you weaken first their ecosystem. They are universally women. They, parentheses, unlike the mermen, are universally female. Why? Question mark. IDK. Period. Okay. So what else do we know about the mermen? Or excuse me, the nymphs. They're not all. Yeah, they're not all river. They're not all river based. Many are also forest nymphs. As well. The water nymphs specifically have been forced into the enchanted forest. I should clarify. This part here, I should just put this in bold. This is why everyone's scared of the enchanted forest. It's about the half bear, half giants. The nymphs are not the scary part because we're going to have nymphs in our country as well, in our kingdom. Have been forced into the enchanted forest because of loss of territory within the Great Lake as a result of this tectonic shift, plate shift, which uprooted the salt flat and therefore screwed up their ecosystem. They used to have a series of marshes in the more swampy areas of the Great Lake, which are where your country has historically with a lot of interreliance with the nymphs, done your rice farming, period. We stan rice. You are a rice-based economy in terms of food base. That's not the word I'm looking for. I'm blanking on the word that I'm looking for. There's like a word for like different countries have different like baseline most used types of food. Some of them are like sema in Africa. Others are going to be like bread in places like France. Others are going to be rice in places like Southeast Asia. But I'm blanking on the name of it, so we're just going to go with food base. Staple. That's what it is in terms of staple. Staple crop. Yeah. Okay, cool. We stand rice. You are a rice-based economy in terms of staple crop. Cool. Okay. But there's a rice problem, obviously, and a broader problem just in general because of this salt problem, this salt issue. Okay. Cool. Now let's talk about, okay, so that's why you're there. Okay, hold up. Let's scroll through it for a second. Okay. How do you stop yourself from being seen as a threat by the various power factions, the Seven Sons, who might take control over the kingdom of humans? Because everyone wants to overthrow their older brother, who is the most likely heir, but your sworn enemy, because he banished you after you shamed him by being better at archery. Okay. How do you figure out a type of trade balance between the ant colony and the humans such that you yourself are able to maintain your position as the go-between while also increasing the scale of trade? Ants understand humanity in a way that's probably wrong. This is the first time okay, so that's the first part, that they just don't understand who you are and how humans work, and therefore they think that they're just interacting with all of humanity rather than just interacting with you specifically or at least your entire kingdom. If everyone else actually goes to the hive, it'll quickly become possible for the ants to recognize that humans are not a single monolith. That would be very bad for you. Yeah. So you need to figure out a strategy wherein it's the nymphs and you who are the primary warriors in the choke point, parentheses, the river, between the ocean and the Great Lake, as the mermen begin to invade up river. So that's one of your goals. Okay, let's just continue. I just want to think about your other goals that you have. How do you stop the mermen from becoming the larger and more important trade partner to the ant colony? Okay. You work heavily with the nymphs. I think the nymphs are your friend for sure. Are your friend for sure. They need this shit to work, and they're heavily incentivized, even though they understand humans quite deeply, to keep up your fiction that you are representative of all humanity, because even if humanity needs some amount of fresh drinking water, they don't need it nearly to the same extent long term as they start moving inland and become more reliant on tributaries than on the Great Lake itself for their water access. So they're really relying the same way that you are in keeping up this fiction. So they're definitely your best friends. Are there other ant colonies? Obviously, there's multiple humans and merman kingdoms, but are there multiple of the semi-sentient colonies? I think yes, but probably not relevant to this particular story / not on the river connecting the Great Lake to the ocean. Do you have a political agenda? Okay, you need there not to be war between mermen and humans. I'm actually not sure that's true. No longer convinced of that. It could serve your interest. Your interests. You just need to make sure that the nymphs don't see you as trying to stir that particular plot. Plot, whatever. Stir that particular pot, not plot. What am I saying? Even if low key you are. Do you need them to be not at war? Oh, you also, for sure, need the first son of the current king to die, ideally before his father. That needs to happen. You also need to befriend some form of member of the royal family to become on trajectory towards taking the crown. You also ideally want to marry into royalty. Ideally, an actual princess. But at the very least, a noblewoman of some sort. That's going to be really useful. That's going to be super useful because you're going to try to, because your goal, the ultimate goal should be to frame oneself from the vantage point of the nymphs as human defender of fresh water and of forest lands. To frame oneself from the vantage point of humans of your kingdom as a newly minted, distant king of a comparatively weak kingdom within the enchanted forest, right? Because that's going to be super helpful if you're going to try to, particularly if you're going to try to marry into the royal family, but just more in general, that's definitely going to be like a useful. You're going to be able to like have more of a direct line to the king and stuff if you're able to do that. So you definitely want to do that. Let me think. Okay. What else? Okay, so ultimate goal should be to try to frame oneself from the vantage point of the nymphs as human defender of fresh water and of forest lands, to frame oneself from the vantage point of humans of your kingdom as a newly minted distant king of a comparatively big kingdom in the enchanted forest, primarily made up of a population of nymphs and of ant slaves. You don't want to play up how smart the ants are or the degree to which theirs is a relevant goal set beyond simply following your dictates. If you're able to frame yourself as being the king of the ants, that makes you incredibly powerful. If you can frame, I should just do that as a if you can frame yourself successfully to the humans as being king of the ants, that's an incredible amount of power. Okay. Now you want the mermen. Now here's the question. Do you just want the mermen to fuck back off to the ocean? The issue is this, right? You're this go-between, and they're over here, and everyone else, all the humans are over here, and you're in the middle in the ant world. You're in the middle in the enchanted forest. If your goal is to try to maximize the amount of trade, then obviously the maximization of trade outcome is for there to be a lot of trade between all of those different cohorts, right? Every single one of them. But you are like balancing the matter of trying to make there be the most trade possible and also trying to ensure your own safety. I think from the short term, maybe this is a little bit cowardly of me to say, I think from a short term, you want the mermen to fuck off, I think. Parentheses, short term. Your long-term goal, once you've successfully ingratiated yourself into nymph society and helped to build out systems of refugee protections for those nymphs that are escaping from the now salted Great Lake. Yeah, I think that you need to be focused on that to begin with. Okay, that's your goal. Now let's think about how it's going to work out. Okay, let's think. How are you going to kill this first son? Right? I think that is the first thing that you need to do. I think he needs to die. Until he's dead, like, you're a dead man walking. One of the two of you is going to die. If he becomes king, you're going to be the one who dies. I like this is 13, by the way, the unlucky number. How will you kill the king's eldest son? Question mark. Okay. So, this is a good question. Can you interact? This is bugging me. The semi-bold? No, there's no bold here. No bold. Can you interact beyond just straight up fighting with the half bear, half giants? You can't. You're a human. But the nymphs can. That's why they've historically been able to survive in the enchanted forest. The nymphs can. I like this. Okay, you can't, you're a human, but the nymphs can. That's why historically they've been able to survive in the enchanted forest. So, can you, parentheses, using your relationship with the nymphs, build out a bear giant army? That's the end of the parentheses. They're generally quite nonviolent as a cohort, the nymphs. But they just lost a shit ton of territory. There's a refugee crisis. And the mermen are their sworn enemy. um, they'd probably be comfortable using their mystic powers over the bear giants to, for example, throw dirt into the river to keep it shallow for purposes of murder against mermen. They'd probably be less interested in a coup attempt or otherwise violently engaging against the humans. That feels correct, right? Yeah, that feels correct. Okay. But your problem is that you need to take out this eldest son. And I'm trying to think about what do you have that you can use against him? You're alone in the humans. There are no human, supporters of you. You've got the ants, but you don't want the ants to be going over there because then they'll very quickly figure out that you're kind of a hack, that you aren't actually the leader of all humans. You aren't a representative of all humans. You're just this individual serf, right? You don't want to do that. How will you kill the eldest son? I don't think you can. I think it's going to be a real problem for you. I don't think you can do that. Yeah, I don't think you can do it. You can. That's a real problem. Unless you're able to get him to come to the enchanted forest, in which case he could easily have an accident at the hands of the bear giant. Yeah, that feels right. Okay, so then how are you going to get the eldest son to come to the enchanted forest without a sufficiently large army that it becomes evident to the ants that you are not the dignitary of all humanity? Okay, so he's probably going to have to be told that he's there on a diplomatic mission. You don't want to tell him about the ants. So he's got to believe it's a mission with the mermen. Interesting. He's got to believe it's a mission with the mermen. Yes. Okay, so how do you get him to believe that? What is diplomatic crisis that likely to be responded to with a small group of troops, but with the heir apparent as diplomat? Ooh. That the mermen want to marry him. This would be the basis of a good peace treaty presumably humans, have heard horror stories that imply they might struggle to defeat the mermen in direct conflict. This kind of treaty through marriage might serve quite well. Okay, how are you going to get the mermen to offer up one of their princesses to marry a non-water mammal, such as the prince? This is interesting. This is quite interesting. How are you going to get the mermen to offer up one of their princesses to marry a non-water mammal, such as the prince? Obviously, it's part of a broader negotiation towards water's expansion, territorial expansion. I shouldn't say water's territorial. Territorial expansion. She'd become the queen of the Great Lakes, while he'd become the king of the lands surrounding, meaning that there'd be this tenuous but somewhat successful marriage of convenience between them. Remember, you need to offer this. It can't work. If that guy gets married to her, to the princess of the Mermish kingdom, and then he becomes king, you're a dead man walking. But you need to have it be offered, even though you don't want it to go through. And you need to be seen as the one who's successfully brokered this treaty. This is glorious. Okay, therefore, you need to ask the ants to be put in contact with their dignitary of the mermens, so that you can organize this wedding. Ha ha! But there's a problem. Their dignitary that you meet is the Mermish princess. Exclamation point. This is very large news for you. Period. Okay, so one, she's very attractive. You now have a crush on her. And you now have a crush on her. So that's inconvenient, but it's just a reality of the situation. So it needs to be jotted down. Two, she's therefore in a position where she could easily expose you for the fact that, unlike her, you are not at all actually representative of the humans. unlike the nymphs, who could also expose you, she's much more incentivized to do so. Okay, so then there's the question, do you therefore kill her? No. Ooga, ooga, she's pretty. Ooh-woo, comma, ooh-woo. Therefore, you cannot kill her because she's pretty and you have a crush. Very embarrassing for you. Embarrassing for you. Period. Okay. She's not going to die. You need to figure out a way to bring her into your broader strategy. This is interesting, right? Because she's really like, throwing a wrench in this whole situation. Let's think. Yeah, that's very inconvenient because, like, if you were thinking with your brain instead of your other appendages, you definitely have to kill her, right? That's definitely the best move. But I don't think you're going to be able to do that because, again, she's very attractive and you're a big fan. And you're like this serf dude, right? You've never really had, been successful with the ladies. But all of a sudden, there's this mermish princess, this mermaid princess, and you're like, oh my God, she's so pretty, right? So you're a big fan. You're simping hard, okay? So as a simp, okay, you got to figure out how to bring her into your broader strategy. She definitely still needs to be offered to the heir apparent, eldest son of the king. But then somehow she needs to be protected / kept out of that marriage. This is an interesting question. Is she on board with your plan? It seems a lot easier from her perspective to just marry the actual prince and let you, this random nobody, die. But you save her repeatedly, even as the nymphs, who are the largest and currently most important trading partners with the ants, are constantly trying to kill her. This means that you end up having this very strange relationship of convenience where at some level you're genuinely interested, sexually speaking, in her in the ooga sort of way. But also, she's literally a princess. And that's quite helpful given your levels of ambition. She, meanwhile, is extremely reliant on you for her and her attendance, physical safety. Attendance? How do you spell attendance? physical safety. She, meanwhile, is extremely reliant on you for her and her attendants' physical safety. And so she needs you. But also, obviously, you're not the best option from a long-term perspective. Indeed, you are the sworn enemy of the best option from a long-term perspective. Oh, also, this is important. She's not the firstborn, and she's a woman. She's not in line to herself become the queen of the existing kingdom within the ocean, right? This part over with the islands over here, right? She's not going to get this shit. This is going to go to one of her brothers. If she's going to get to become a queen anywhere, it's going to be in here. It's going to be in the Great Lake, right? So she needs to figure out how to do that. She's not the firstborn. She's a woman. She's not in line to herself become the queen of the existing kingdom. If successfully colonization is accomplished within the Great Lake, then all of a sudden she gets to be queen. And yeah, she has to be married. And yeah, technically, misogyny is still a thing. And she wouldn't be on paper responsible for that component of the broader kingdom, which would be understood on paper, at least at the beginning, as being an extension of the existing kingdom, but it's incredibly remote. There's a choke point between it and the rest of the Mermish kingdom. And she's married to a fucking land-based human who, even if he wants to be in control over the Great Lake underwater, doesn't have the military capacity to do so. She'd, in essence, become the first queen of a brand new Mermish kingdom, and there's absolutely jack shit anyone can do about it once a few 100,000 of her mermens are able to follow her up the river. Okay. So this is a really complicated situation, right? Because then that means that even if you do marry her, right now you're in the power position, the comparative power position, as the one who is essentially responsible for her continued survival. But you're both acutely aware that isn't going to be the case long term. If ever you get married, particularly because you're a fucking peasant. You're a fucking peasant. And the humans don't respect your claim, and you'll never, almost certainly, never be able to be, at least on paper, the king of the human population surrounding the Great Lake. This is interesting. Okay. All right. Let me think. She's not the firstborn, and she's a woman. The Ooga Ooga component. Okay, so back to the matter of killing the firstborn. Passover, in parentheses. If you get it, you get it. Back to the matter of killing the firstborn. Okay. Okay. What's your pitch? I need some cheese. I have some cheese. I have some lovely, the Fresh Market. It is some goat's milk cheese. And I also have some crackers, the Fresh Market organic cracked pepper water crackers. It's interesting that they're called water crackers because we are discussing water and mermaids, etc., etc. Okay. This is interesting. Hold up. While I do this, you should get a full view of my crackers. As you know, Hassan Piker is not allowed to say crackers. It's against the rules for specifically Hassan Piker to talk about crackers because it's against the rules of Twitch. You're not allowed to talk about crackers. You are allowed to talk about Ritz, but you can't call them crackers. It's really important. Okay, let's think about back to the matter of the killing of the firstborn. As I try to open this, which is surprisingly difficult to do. I also don't have a knife, but I don't really want to get up to get a knife, so I'm just gonna like smush it onto my crackers. You ready? This is the smushing. I'm gonna just like smush, right? I'm gonna smush out, and then I'm gonna smear. Yeah, I broke my cracker as I was smearing. It's okay, it worked out. Now I have some cheese on my cracker, and then I broke the cracker, so this part is gonna go on the top of the cracker, and I'm gonna eat the cracker. While we think about the back to the matter of killing the firstborn. Very good cracker. Okay. This is interesting. Back to the matter of killing the firstborn. Okay. So I think there's a couple of things. One, you can't, and the nymphs can't, afford to let the princess go to the human kingdom directly all the way up the river. The river, because otherwise might actually get married, and they might actually be able to successfully come to some sort of deal, which would almost certainly spell disaster for the swamplands the nymphs are reliant on. So that would be terrible. So you can't do that. So you need him to come to you. This is interesting. Do the rest of the humans know that you're there? Because presumably you have some degree of like name recognition in that you were able to defeat in this archery competition the heir apparent. The reason I ask is because if they don't know, that you're you. Like, they're still looking for you. Yeah. Everyone's still looking for you. Of the humans, particularly the heir apparent, are still on the looking for you to try and kill you. Maybe the princess offers your head on a silver platter as a wedding, as an engagement present. That'd for sure be something that the heir would be interested in getting from her. Has there been previous contact between the leadership of the of this particular mermaid, this particular mermaid, merman kingdom, mermish kingdom, whatever, and your human kingdom? No. And here's why. Because remember the map, right? The map is upside down. Give me a second. Remember the map. So the map, the enchanted forest is this whole area here between the two. And so the only way to get up and down is over the river. But the river is controlled by the nymphs. And the nymphs fucking hate the mermaids. And so they're not going to let the mermaids up the river. And so it's very specific that they let her up this far, but not all the way up. And they're holding her hostage. And yes, the answer also, there are the ones who are doing that directly, but they're the ones who let her even up this far up the river because they wanted to be able to figure out some sort of strategy to be able to do this kind of thing. And they wanted to figure out and use her basically as ransom, potentially. Hold her for ransom rather, in order to be used as a cudgel against broader invasion from the Mermish kingdom. Okay, back to script / notes, whatever. Has there been previous contact between the leadership of this particular Mermish kingdom and your human kingdom? No. The nymphs never let all the way up or all the way down the entire river before. Okay. Okay. Now this is interesting. That's therefore this massive question, right? From the perspective of the human kingdom. Therefore, the human kingdom, first question when someone tells them should send their heir apparent down the river is, holy shit, are the nymphs chill with that? Because if they're not, he gonna fucking die. He gonna fucking die. Not ideal, right? You need to make up a story, give them a story as to why their prince isn't under threat, / how the nymphs no longer control the river. And so the two options are Option 1. You say that the entire river is now controlled by the Mermish kingdom. Then why can't the princess go all the way up? Option 2. You say that there's a truce between the nymphs and the Mermish kingdom. What the fuck? That shit doesn't happen. They hate each other. Also, if that's the case, if that's what you're saying, the rank and file of the nymphs will fight back against that claim, and there'll be a civil war, even if it's not true. If the claim is complete bullshit, unless leadership immediately pushes back against it. Option 3, you say it's under the control of the ants. This is bad. You don't want to talk about the ants. Want to tell the other humans about the ants. And so therefore, option 4, you claim to be a wizard. That seems like the right decision. I have to sneeze. Give me a second. I have to sneeze. Give me a second. I no longer have to sneeze. It's fine. I just need more cheese. I don't need to sneeze. I need more cheese. It's important to have a cracker to smear the cheese onto the cracker. Smear. Ready? Look at this. Look at this. Oh, what a smear. What a smear. What a smear. What a smear. Okay. You claim to be a wizard. You've taken control personally, totality of the river. From the nymphs. You've built an army where you're sycophantic. No. Who are under your spell. Yes. That's option 4. The nymphs will be a lot more confident that unlike the truths concept, this one is just on its face absurd. Humans can't become wizards. Everybody knows that. It's a ridiculous claim that only a human, a fellow human, would believe. It also builds up your comparative power in the psyche of the humans. This is important. You want always. Power resides where men believe that it resides. That's a quote, I believe, by Littlefinger. Littlefinger? Question mark, I think. ... Okay, cool. This is good. This is good. This is good. I like this. Okay, cool. So you claim to be a wizard. You're a wizard. This is good. This is good. This is good. You're a wizard. Okay. Therefore, you claim to be a wizard. You've taken control personally over the totality of the river from the nymphs. You've built built an army of nymphs who are under your spell. Now, the wizard sends a message, parentheses, you, send a message to the king, and you proclaim, A, I want the heir apparent to marry the princess of the Mermish, kingdom. Okay, that's number A. I want it done in my river as a statement. In my river, until this happens in my river, I will. This is an issue. So I was going to say that you were going to do some like hardball kinds of like cutting off the humans from something. The issue is that you're downstream from them. It's much easier to screw with people if you're upstream from them than if you're downstream of them, because shit flows downhill. You know, that's how shit works, as well as pee, as well as urine. Urine and pee are the same thing. But, you know, all of the negative attributes, they go downstream, 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 right? So that's how that works. So therefore, as a result of this fact, it's going to be very difficult for you to really screw over the humans and scare them. I want it done in my river. Until this happens in my river, I will. You've got this good relationship with the nymphs at this point. You've really built that up. And they are going, therefore, to be interested in perhaps figuring out some sort of model for you. Because the thing is that, like, there's two groups of nymphs. Give me a second. There's two groups of nymphs right now living in the Enchanted Forest. Okay. The refugees, the native population. From your kingdom. Refugees are from your kingdom. They're concerned with trying to eventually move back / end the problem of the saltification. I don't know what it's called. Salinification. I think it's called, desalinization is a word. Salinization, as in making of more salt in the Great Lake. That's how words work. They're concerned with trying to eventually move back and the problem of salinization in the Great Lake. They're not your friends. You want to make an ethnic division. Are you a bad person in this thing? Yes, you're a bad person. Just straight up, you're a bad person. You're going to do a lot of things in this that you're going to be like, oh, but Quibbles, I wouldn't do that. I'm a really good person. Fuck you. Okay, in this story, you're a bad person. You're a very bad person, okay? Naughty, naughty, naughty. Okay, so you're going to make an ethnic division between the refugees and the native population, okay? Cool. So the native population of nymphs, this native population from the river area, their goal is just to protect the river, not the Great Lake. Fuck the Great Lake. They want to protect the enchanted forest, and the Great Lake. And that's basically it. They don't care what happens upstream so long as fresh water is what goes down the river. Right now, they've got a salty river, and that's not good. So therefore, you're going to be reliant on the native population, not the refugees. Okay, the refugees are your enemy, because the refugees have a goal set that is a lot more in line with a direct war, full-on war against the Mermish kingdom. And you don't want a full-on war. You want to be able to have them probably have this princess take over in the Great Lake itself, but figure out a way such they're able to cut off have a desalinization program such that the water that flows down the river is fresh water, which is particularly good. Therefore, I should be writing this down. Therefore, you want to figure out a strategy such that I want to be clear. This here. When I said over here, this option 2, that shit doesn't happen. Also, if you're saying this, then rank and file nymphs will fight back against this. They'll fight against it a lot less hard if you're able to play on racial/ethnic division and on anti-immigrant sentiment. This is always true. Always blame the outsider, period. This is the way, period. Okay, cool. Therefore, you want to figure out a strategy such that the following. The native enchanted forest nymphs are able. I still think that you want to be a wizard. I think that's still useful because it definitely builds up your comparative power in terms of this, and just building up that narrative in the rank and file of nymphs as well as in the rank and file of humans. I think is a very useful fiction. So I do think that should still be something that you're going to spread as a lie. Okay, therefore, you want to figure out a strategy such that the native enchanted forest nymphs are able to you want to figure out a strategy such that the native enchanted forest nymphs are able to have a river that is promised to them by the princess to be permanently desalinified. This is in the interest of the princess because it cuts her off from the rest of the Mermish kingdom, such that she doesn't have to report to either her father or her older brother. That said, she needs to do so relatively on the DL, or else her rank and file of newly immigrant mermen from that very same country are going to be extremely pissed off that she's cut them off from their own extended families and the broader Mermish economy. But that's definitely in her personal interest. So I think you can get her on board for that. That'll probably work. Okay. I need another piece of cracker and cheese. It's very important. I hope that you are nourishing yourself as you watch this. I think it's very important. My ideal strategy for you, as you've been watching this whole thing, is that you've been watching it, but it's been a very small little floopity boopity in like the small stuff. And what you've mostly been doing is you've mostly been like surfing on Twitter or you've been like playing a video game. I think specifically you should be playing a video game right now. That's like the best thing you should be doing, I think. Or you could be doing work, but I think ideally you're doing a video game. No, I think ideally you're doing laundry. I'm lying to myself. You should be doing laundry right now. That's what you should do. Do your laundry. Ladies and gentlemen, do your laundry. No, I'm just kidding. Don't do that. That's a terrible idea. Okay, continuing onward and forward. What a good cracker and cheese. Okay. Okay. Therefore, the native enchanted forest nymphs are able to get to have a river. As promised to them. Okay. How? So that's the strategy. It's in the princess's personal selfish interest to keep it cut off, to keep herself cut off from the rest of the Mermish kingdom, and therefore it's in her selfish interest to keep the river itself, though not the Great Lake, from becoming salted. Okay. She can do that relatively easily by simply building up a separated system of closed off portions of the Great Lake. Keep in mind, she's going to have a population of maybe a bit over 100,000, if all goes well, move with her to the Great Lake, which has enough space, at least for the period of time that you and she will be alive, for well in excess of 1 million Mermish people. So she can afford to give up a portion of the Great Lake and keep it freshwater. The tectonic plates are such that this is quite doable. Because the salt flats, the newly opened salt flats, are on the side further from the river's mouth. So where's my Sharpie? Should do an arrow. Salt flats. There's the salt flats over there, and then over here is where the river opens up to the Great Lake. So I think that's going to work because there's other tributaries of other like little mini rivers over like in this area and all of that that get to it. So if she's able to like make a giant dam there in the middle of it, then she can have her own kingdom over here. It's this hermit North Korea style kingdom, right? In terms of its trade relationship to the rest of the Mermish society in the ocean, but right next to this kingdom right here, this human kingdom, and therefore you're going to be able to have lots of trade here. And so she'll be able to have, basically a monopoly on ocean trade, or not ocean trade, but Great Lake trade. So comparative, basically ocean, salted Great Lake trade with these humans. And so therefore, I think she's going to be pretty well situated there. I think that'll work out well for her. Okay, so she's happy. And the enchanted forest nymphs are happy. Obviously, the nymphs from over here They're not happy at all. These nymphs are super, super pissed off about this. They don't know what's going to happen yet. You're still planning it out. But these nymphs are very happy. The ones over where the ants live and where you are. Which is going to be very good. I'm realizing in a lot of ways, I know that like the prompt right at the beginning was framing you as being the go-between specifically with the ant colony and the humans. But I'm realizing it's actually barely even true. Your primary relationship, I think, is actually on the basis of what's it called? The nymphs. That great wall in the middle of the Great Lake can be accomplished either by mermen, but they're not going to want to, even though their queen / current princess is going to be very okay with it. But you know who can? The ants. The ants are a colony. And yes, a major number of their group will die in the process, but they're a colony. They don't have individualized goal sets. And therefore, if what they're offered is of high enough value, they'll happily drown a solid third of their entire colony to accomplish this goal. Therefore, what's your major offer to the ants? This is what it comes down to. If you're able to figure out a good major offer to the ants, this is where you are all of a sudden really, truly, both number one, a wizard. It's important for people to believe that you're a wizard. And two, what you actually are, okay, which is the negotiator with the ants. What's your major offer to the ants? And who's providing it? That's the second part. And who providing it? Okay. So, what do they need? What do ants want? Okay. They want safety for the enchanted forest. In conjunction with the goal sets of the correct racial group, not racial group, ethnic group. That would be inappropriate if you said the correct racial group. The correct ethnic group. I was about to say ethnic cleansing. The correct ethnic group, rather, of the nymphs, enchanted forest nymphs. Are they even an ethnic group? I'm joking here, but I know I'm gonna get canceled by someone in the comment section. They're not even an ethnic group. They're just like a territorial. No, they definitely are an ethnic group. They're like territorially distinct. Yeah, they've lived in different locations for like 1,000 years. They definitely are a different ethnic group. We just don't need to clarify what specific ethnic group they are, but they are a different ethnic group. Okay, so they want safety for the enchanted forest in conjunction with the goal sets of the correct ethnic group of the nymphs, enchanted forest nymphs. They want increased food trade with the humans and or mermen of either the princess's New Kingdom, possibly, or of the existing larger territory in whatchamacallit, in the ocean. They want their river itself to be not deepened necessarily, but widened, so that they can start farming river plants in it. They also want a large flats that's underwater at the top of the river, presumably. I should clarify that first one. We should make a comment. Insert. Oh no! If I make a comment, it's going to mess up all of the whole thing. I don't want to do that. Note: wider river, not in the interest of the nymphs necessarily. They also want a large flats that's underwater at the top of the river, presumably. Yeah. The nymphs don't give a shit about that. They're about tributaries. They're about marshes. Actually, no, they do give a shit because they want it. The nymphs like that. Yeah. Because that's a marsh. They like that. They're about marshes. They like shallow waters, shallow fresh waters a great deal, particularly ones that, in conjunction with the ants, they'll be able to farm, period. They like that a lot. Okay. This is interesting. Okay. What do the ants want? Okay. What's a major offer to the ants? So that's what you're offering them. You're offering them territory. So you're offering them territory. Okay. You're also offering them. So there's the trade. There's the territory. They want. They want technology. The mermen and the humans have a major amount of tech. Right? That must be true. That the ants don't have access to. Yeah, because the ants have been chilling in the enchanted forest in relative peace with a bunch of nymphs for like the last thousand years. ... They ain't got shit when it comes to weapons. Do they need weapons currently? Kind of. It's because theirs is a territory of increasing interest to both humans and mermen. The bear giants are there. Yeah. Yeah. The bear giants. Ants don't like bear giants. Yeah. So, yeah. Historically, the ants have held their colonies underground because of the bear giants constantly trampling everything, and stealing their honeydew. Their honeydew is like their like bee wax, beehive stuff, right? I call it honeydew in this top thing. Aphid honeydew. Yeah, they're aphid honeydew. Yeah, aphids are above ground, live in trees. But they immediately, as soon as harvested, move it all below so the bear giants can't get to it. So they want to kill the bears. The ants, in all caps, want to kill the bear giants. Period. Glorious. How to kill a bear giant. How to kill a bear giant. A, traps. B, destroy their habitat. Their habitat. The nymphs of the correct ethnic group, parentheses, enchanted forest, will not approve of this, end parentheses. That's definitely true, right? They definitely wouldn't approve. Okay, so there's the traps. There's the destroy the habitat, but that's not a real option. There's the humans could do it in an organized fashion, but you personally don't necessarily want humans to be inside the enchanted forest / ant territory. So I guess your best option is traps. Are there other options? Traps, destroy habitat. Humans could do it in an organized fashion. Mermen can't do it in an organized fashion because they live outside of the water. They drink water, so they go down to the river with some degree of frequency, go into the marshes with some degree of frequency. But they're not like regularly, like that's not their territory. Their territory is going to be in the forest thicket. Traps, destroy their habitat. Humans could do it in an organized fashion. Humans haven't bothered to do this whole time because humans don't need to, because it's the thicket of this like basically rainforest, right? I'm imagining it as a rainforest. I think it's a rainforest. Rainforest, let's clarify, that's currently having salt and therefore its ecosystem is totally fucked right now. But I think it is a rainforest. Yeah. I think traps are your best bet as an ant. So how do you get traps? If traps are the best bet, big no-no. Therefore, big no-no. And then let's make that, instead of being A, make you be C instead. So that you can be a big yes. Big yes. Okay, so traps are going to come either from human technology or from the Mermish kingdom as part of a dowry from the princess, soon to become queen / ideally your wife. Because power, and also because uwu. Cool. So this is good. So they're going to have to come from the Mermish kingdom. That they come from the Mermish kingdom from the Mermish kingdom doesn't mean that it's a Mermish good. Just that it's coming from an ocean-faring society rather than a Great Lakes society. Okay, so this is good. Okay, cool. So that's the plan. You're going to offer a bunch of traps to the ants that are going to be paid for by the Mermish kingdom, purchased from a bunch of other human societies that are in the ocean, that are on the ocean, right? So they're going to be, sitting over here in some kingdom over here, or up there in some kingdom, or on the massive continent / landmass over here that's outside of this landmass here. Those are your options. That's definitely going to be doable, that you can be able to get traps there in order to kill bear giants. Cool. So therefore, that, in addition to these giant flats that you're going to be able to provide here, I think is going to be a good reason for them to invest, the ants to invest in building up this massive wall here as part of your long-term strategy. This is a negotiation that you're going to be able to do between you and the princess and the ants, and likely leadership of the nymphs, right? Those are the people who are part of this negotiation. I think this is in all of their interest to do this. Okay, cool. Now, I need more cheese. Look at this. I'm running out of cheese. I have to squeeze out the last of the cheese. This is terrible. This is terrible. This is horrible. The cheese was $4. It's not that terrible. It's okay that I'm running out of cheese, given that it was only $4. I feel like $4 is a reasonable amount for a single snack activity, particularly given that I've been at this for a little over 2 hours. Which, by the way, I appreciate that you've been here for the last 2 and a smidget hours, 2 hours and 6 minutes, 57 seconds, by my estimation. So therefore, given that you've been here this whole time, I think you should like, as well as you should also subscribe. Okay, continuing forward. I was about to use my map as a thing to blow my nose, but I'm not going to do that. I'm going to use this other one. Okay. Cool. This is in everyone's interest, I think. Therefore, we need to think about planning the prince's death. A, how specifically are we going to lure him into the river with a relatively small crew that can be easily overpowered? That's question one, or question A, rather. How can we find someone useful, ideally the nymphs of the wrong racial group, ethnic group, to blame this on, so that we get any fall. As a result, we don't want war that doesn't serve our interests. By the way, I would just like to point out, this shit is some conniving, crazy crap. We're gonna make them literally give us the Mermish Kingdom is about to give us 100,000 mermen and a massive dowry of expensive traps for literal bear giants. And then basically, as soon as everything's all set up, we're going to turn around and totally screw them by completely cutting off what they thought was going to be an extension of their territory, which they paid so dearly for. The princess is a badass lady. Not B word. We are SJWs in this story. We would never insult a race, ethnicity, or feminine, or femoid rather, or femoid, save, of course, for the immigrant nymphs. Save, of course, the immigrant nymph. Okay, cool. Yeah, arguably, she's also a bad person. Arguably, she, as well as you, are also bad people. That's worth pointing out as well. Okay, cool. How can we find someone useful, ideally the nymphs of the wrong ethnic group, to blame this on so that we don't get any fallout as a result? This is about the death of the prince. We don't want war. That doesn't serve our interests. Okay, so what narrative could be spun wherein murdering the prince would be in their interest? Well, the obvious one is that he is trying to marry a mermaid, the sworn enemy of all, let's just asterisk that, all nymphs. This is an issue, though, because we want the racial animus to be targeted specifically against the nymphs living in their own territory and the refugees from their territory. We don't want racial animus towards the nymphs of the enchanted forest. That would not serve your interests. I'm looking out for you. It's important that your interests be served. Okay. So how do we spin it so that the good nymphs, enchanted forest, aren't harmed by our fake news about the nymphs of the human kingdom? I was looking as if I had named any of these things. I haven't named like anything. I haven't named you. I haven't named the princess. I haven't named the mermaid kingdom. I haven't named the human kingdom. I haven't named the ant colony. I haven't named the bear giants, other than to just literally call them bear giants. I have done basically no naming of anything at all, which is like totally fine. I'm totally comfortable with that. That's fine. I just want to like point that out. You don't need names for a story to function. Okay, you need story. You need plot. Okay, you need complicated shit. You need 4,848 words full of an explanation of precisely what the mechanics of how exactly you're going to go through your trade deal are going to look like. Okay, that's what you need to build a story. Okay, that's what storytelling is. Okay, Fuck character development. Screw character development. The only character development you need to know is that the princess is hot, okay? That's the only character development that's relevant. She's hot and you like her, okay? That's the only character development. Continuing forward. Water is delicious. I'm running out of cheese. This is terrible. I'm running out of cheese. Okay. Cheese. Okay. How do we spin it so that the good nymphs, enchanted forest, aren't harmed by our fake news about the nymphs of the human kingdom? Okay. I don't know. I don't know if that's possible. I think that when you build racial animus, like nymphs, okay, nymphs can tell the difference between different nymph racial groups, right? But like, I'm not sure that like humans can tell the difference between different types of nymph, right? That feels correct, right? I feel like yeah, humans are just gonna be like, oh, they're all nymphs. So I think that like straight up, you can't. There's going to be racial animus against the nymphs of the enchanted forest, and they need to be ready for that fact. That said, the trajectory of, yeah, this is going to work out. So you can't. There's going to be racial animus against the nymphs. That said, the trajectory of the immigration of the Mermish peoples up the river is such that they're not going to be... Wait, this is... Hold up. We need to really think about this. Okay. Let's think about this for a second. I'm thinking about whether or not if I were a nymph of the enchanted forest, if I was one of their leaders, would I be comfortable with this as a strategy? Like, really think this through. Okay. From their perspective, right now, everything is fucked, right? Right now, they have a bunch of salt in their river, and their primary goal is obviously to get rid of the salt. But they also don't necessarily trust, or let me rephrase that. They definitely necessarily distrust the people who are Mermish, right? They don't trust the princess, and they certainly don't trust the kingdom as a whole. So, like, from their perspective, like, is it really in their interest to be doing this thing that's a very, like, high-stakes gamble that the mermaid queen is going to actually want to cut herself off once she becomes queen from the rest of her existing kingdom, from her parents and from her brothers and all of that? Like, it's a very large gamble from their perspective. I don't know if I'm on board with it if I'm them. Do we have to kill the nymphs? I don't think that you can afford to kill the nymphs. This is a real problem. You can't afford to fuck with the nymphs because the nymphs are your power base right now. And without the nymphs, you're not going to be able to accomplish almost anything in this sort of short term. Also, the nymphs can probably literally kill you if you ever pop out of the ground, because right now you're literally being held semi-captive by the ants. But if you're trying to go up there and negotiate with them, which obviously you're going to have to do if you're going to get any of this done, you're going to have to work with them. So unless you're going to have a war between the ants and the nymphs, you're going to have to really figure out something more that you're going to be able to provide to the nymphs, to the nymph society specifically, rather than the actual leadership, but the rank and file of the enchanted forest in this interim. And you're really going to have to build up this racial differential within nymph culture, and you're really going to have to play up on refugee sort of stereotype kinds of issues because you need them to understand themselves as being two different groups. If the nymphs start to think of themselves as a single group, you are definitely screwed. So we need to think about that a little bit more. We'll come back to it. To begin, I think that the rest of this, with that as a sort of thing on the side, I think this is something that I would agree with and I would agree to do if I were the prince. I think I would go up that river. I'm going to have a really big ego, right? Obviously. I was bred from birth to be the king. This is the kind of place to prove myself, right? I want to be able to prove myself before I become king. My father is old and ailing. This could be my sort of first real triumph of my reign. And obviously my father and the kingdom in general is doing very poorly right now. I have to sneeze. Is there another? There's not another. That was the only sneeze. I need to figure out a way to prove myself. And so therefore, I think this is the best way to prove myself. So I do think I would do this if I were the prince. Okay. So the prince is going to do it. Once you kill the king, once you kill the prince, how are you going to stop the next thing? Are you going to still manage peace with the humans, the human kingdom, without marrying off the princess of the Mermish kingdom, who is Uwu and also deeply valuable as a future mate? By the way, I don't think you can actually reproduce with a mermaid. I don't think that's the thing you can do. I think that like humans can't do that. But I do think that it's still useful as a marriage of like political power, and I also think she probably has nice boobs. But mostly from a political power perspective, also a little bit of a Uwu perspective. Once you kill the prince, how are you going to still manage to peace with human kingdom without marrying off the princess of the Mermish kingdom, who is Uwu and also deeply valuable as a future mate? Because like, if I were the second oldest son, I'd be like, dope. Now I'm the heir apparent, and I also want to marry her. I think the king needs to die. The current king needs to die also. Right? That feels right. I think he needs to die. Because, like, if he doesn't die... Yeah, if the current king doesn't die, but his son dies, like... he's just going to figure out who his next heir apparent is. I want the humans to be in shambles. The humans need to be in shambles. To be in shambles during the Great Migration. I think I want to write it as Great Migration. The Great Migration of mermen up the river. So too, the nymphs need to be in shambles, I think. To either be in shambles or the enchanted forest nymphs need to be at war with the human kingdom nymphs from the human kingdom / refugee nymphs, such that we're able to sneak 100,000 mermen up the river. This is no small feat. Particularly given that they have no feet. I'm very funny. Given that they have no feet. Why is that in the script? It's in the script, okay? It's necessary. This is all planned out, okay? The whole thing is planned. Every single bit of this has been a strategy from the beginning. I'm definitely not doing this live. Okay, we're at 5,000 words, by the way. We've been doing this for 2 hours, 24 minutes. I'm glad that you're still around. Like and subscribe. Okay, I think the current king needs to die also. The humans need to be in shambles during the great migration of mermen up the river. So too, the nymphs need to be in shambles, or the enchanted forest nymphs need to be at war with the human nymphs, human kingdom / refugee nymphs, such that we're able to sneak 100,000 mermaids to the river. Cool. So, how to get the humans in shambles? Okay. Obviously, it starts with killing their heir apparent. But ideally, you do this immediately following or prior to the murder of the king himself. Right? Because that way, you're left with 6 separate princes all vying for the crown. And also a bunch of princesses who can possibly get married off, which would be interesting. Be interesting as you're trying to start building up a broader cultural hub of married relations between mermen and humans within your fledgling kingdom as the Wizard King of the Great Flats. The marshlands lands that are being created by the ants / enchanted forest. Enchanted forest nymphs in conjunction with the princess, now queen, / ideally your wife, of the new Great Lake Queendom. Yes. Okay. How do you kill the king? How to kill a king. How to kill a king. How do you kill the king? It starts with eating more cheese. Eating more cheese, eating more cheese, eating more cheese, eating more cheese, eating more cheese. This is basically the last of the cheese. It's a little upsetting. Schmear the cheese onto the cracker. Smear 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 the cheese, smear the cheese, smear the cheese. Successfully smeared. What good cheese. Okay. How do you kill the king? How to kill the king? Poison. Stab him. Get a nymph to do it. There are different ways to stab him. One option of how to stab him is you get a nymph to do it. Another way to stab him is you get a human servant to do it. Or you get one of his sons to do it. Or you could get so many options. How to kill the king. There's so many options. There's so many options. You get an imp to do it. You get a human servant to do it. Get one of his sons to do it. I mean, the ants could do it by burrowing the soil, then getting into the bailey of their castle, then swallowing him underground. Actually, that's kidnapping, not even murder. Arguably, that's even more shambles-y than murdering him. If you let one of his sons take over, then you pop him back up somewhere else in the kingdom. The issue is you don't want the ants to understand human society. And if they kidnap the king, he'll have lots of stuff to tell them. You, the wizard king of the flats, of the Great Flats, the Great Flats. See, we name things. Now, do we just name things the Great Lake and the Great Flats? Yes, we do. But we still do name things, okay? Things get named in this story. You, the wizard king of the Great Flats, should be the only person, the only human to interact with the ants. Cool. So you don't want to do that. Therefore, one of his sons should kill him. You need to figure out one of the sons to be your preferred candidate to take control over the kingdom. That has to happen, I think. And so what do you do to accomplish that? Once you've done that, you need to figure out a way to protect him after he's murdered Daddy. Which killing Daddy in and of itself should probably, for him, be relatively easy, albeit perhaps not emotionally so, unless we decide that the existing king is a dick and a bad father. I have decided, completely arbitrarily, that the existing king is a dick and a bad father. Period. Why? Because that makes the writing easier. Making the writing easier is the reason why we've made the existing king a dick. Period. Glorious. Okay, so how do you find and how do you interact? How to discover your correct candidate among the princes. A, they need to hate the heir apparent a great deal. B, they need to ideally be older rather than younger, because it makes their claim better. They need to ideally be stupid rather than smart so that you can make them be submissive and follow your lead, as well as the lead of your mermaid queen of the Great Lakes, who you will marry, not this prince. This prince must therefore be chill about it, about being the second most important, most powerful man in the area. That's very important. Arguably, if all goes according to plan, the princess, the princess, now queen, now mermaid queen of the Great Lakes, is going to be more powerful even than you. Which is like ... not ideal, but I can't see a way around it, because the truth is she's literally a fish and you're not a fish and you can't swim good. Period. Okay. So this prince needs to hate their heir apparent, their older brother, a great deal. They need to ideally, so I think all of them do. He's the kind of guy who would literally challenge some random serf to an archery competition, lose, get triggered by the fact that he lost, and then start a nationwide manhunt to kill the motherfucker who beat him in an archery competition. The heir apparent is quite apparently a dick. Period. Okay. So that's not a difficult one to get. They're all going to hate their older brother. They need to ideally be older rather than younger because it makes their claim better. There's 6 of them. The second oldest is probably going to have plans of his own going into any kind of coup, because presumably it's occurred to him too that this is the kind of situation where a second son could easily grab power in a vacuum of his own making. Therefore, he's going second oldest is a no-go because he's got too many allies, too many parentheses human allies of his own to try and go for something as risky as your proposition. Okay. Therefore, third oldest, who happens to be, he should be like messed up in some way. There should be some error. You know, he should be like Tyrion Lannister and a midget, or he should be like stupid or something, right? There should be some problem with him. Who happens to be, Let's think. I do feel like there should be something wrong with him. Don't you think? There should be something wrong with him. I feel like that's right. The third oldest, who happens to be who's already sworn himself to the church is the best option. The rest of them are too young to be able to run a military campaign against the second oldest son. Therefore, he's the only option. Okay. Fleshing out. We have to flesh out a character now. Fleshing out. I know. No one wants to flesh out the character, but we have to do it. It's necessary for the plot. Okay. Fleshing out this third son as a character. Parentheses. Belch! We hate character development. It's all about the plot, baby. Okay. He's not actually devoted to the church. He joined because he's a third son. And he wanted to get some semblance of power, which is best accomplished, in his case, given his birth, by becoming a church leader and being able to levy great taxes on parishioners. Parishioners. Is that right? Parishioners. I spelled it right. The second time I spelled it right. I didn't spell it right the first time, but whatever. He joined it because he's the third son and wanted to get some semblance of power, which is accomplished in his case, given his birth, by becoming a church leader and being able to levy great taxes on the parishioners. Parishioners, period, rather. Cool. Therefore, as part of his church assignments, he goes around preaching to the forgotten masses, non-believers outside of the kingdom, the human kingdom, relatively frequently. And so he won't be missed. If he goes off for some sort of something on his own for a couple months with just his most loyal men. Okay, so he's not actually devoted to the church. He's doing it for power reasons. Cool. Now, let's think about more about him. He's is he just interested in power, or is there more to him beyond just being interested in power? This is interesting. I think he's going to have like a pretty intense, he's interested not so much in power itself, but more so the auspices of power. The titles, the castles, the women, the food, etc. It's not the power it's not the power itself that excites him. It's just everything that comes with it. Everything that comes with it. Therefore, you need to treat him like an overgrown baby / U.S. senator. He needs to be pampered. Okay. How to pamper the prince during wartime. He needs a military, or at least to be seen as though he has one. That extends beyond just pampering, actually. That's like actually necessary for victory. But again, victory requires that he be comfortable with your marriage to the princess, to the mermaid princess, which requires that he be quite comfortable and quite happy with you. And again, also you're going to have ants and nymphs. That's true, but the humans could definitely beat the ants and nymphs without the mermish people. And once the everything's built, the mermish queen is going to be much less incentivized to protect you and the ants and the nymphs, so long as she's able to ensure that there's a freshwater separation between herself and the rest of mermish society. So, okay, he needs a military, or at the very least to be seen as though he has one. That extends beyond just pampering, actually. That's actually necessary for victory. Ideally, it should be a human military. He's got a very small group of devoted churchmen, but the majority of the military, unless we do some fucky shit, even after we kill the oldest brother and the king, will go to the second oldest brother, particularly if it's publicly known, or at least publicly accused, that the church father, third son, is the one who killed his father. That'd be bad. We need the public, therefore, parentheses, humans, to think that it was the second son, not the church father, third son, who killed Daddy the king. Interesting. How do we accomplish that? I think we accomplish it in part 2. Have a good one. Like and subscribe.